This is the Seahawkers podcast. I'm Brandan Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and today joining me to talk about the keystone player on the Seahawks roster, my good buddy Adam Emmert and Clinton Bonner. How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing really well. I'm excited because I think we're getting now out of the draft season stuff, and we're kind of getting into crazy season, boys. I'll talk a little bit about that coming up. But we got OTAs, there's actual Seahawks news, and now it's
news that's happening.
Yeah, we get to see see the players. We get hype season already. D. Eskridge is amazing according to Gino, which is cool. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to rock and roll today, boys. Adam, how about you?
Oh, I'm just doing great, man. This is going to be an interesting topic today because there's a number of ways people could go when they're thinking on the idea of what the most important Seahawk player is for this upcoming season. I'm going to be curious to where you guys go. I think, Clinton, you not just one player, but you were thinking maybe two, we had two. Yeah,
I think so.
Because you always have two keystones when you're talking about a keystone,
right? I mean, why have a priority when you get a priorities and get neither of them done, right? So, but the idea being one that maybe is just a little bit more obvious of a keystone, however you want to frame it, and then our dark horse keystone. If certain things break certain ways, who could we see being the glue, being the gel, being the keystone that maybe folks aren't thinking about quite yet? So we're out of draft season. We know about the players. You guys just released 404 with all the awesome videos, and the interviews of the players, and that's awesome. I can't wait to listen. And now we get to start to talk about this kind of stuff, Brandan, which excites me, man.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, with the keystone player, were you, in terms of rules, are there any players who are off the table? Because when I think of a keystone player, my mind immediately goes to the quarterback. And, if Geno Smith's it's terrible, then, he feels like an obvious keystone player. Like, are we allowed to pick him, or is he off the table as just being too obvious?
I would say if you want to pick the lamest answer possible and disappoint our fans and listeners, then go right ahead, say Geno Smith, and we'll make fun of you.
Well, I have to say it because, we'll go through all three rounds and then somebody be like, what? They didn't even pick Geno Smith, who's the quarterback. I mean, he's an obvious keystone player.
Why is the most correct answer the lamest? I don't understand that, because at the end of the day, we saw last year, if Geno plays well, we're a 9-10 win team. Even when you have a defense that's stinky.
3 keystones.
3. Geno being 1. So we can all agree. We can all agree it's the NFL. QBs matter a whole lot. Geno's a good QB. And if he plays really well, we're likely dancing in the playoffs, right? We can make a run with Geno. Is that cool? We got that out there?
I have to get it out there because I know the comments would come.
Yeah,
if we get through all of our keystones, and there would be some commenter saying they didn't even mention Geno Smith. I mean, what is this show?
Right, exactly. And then they would get on Adam for having a take that maybe slightly is different than the one that they got from Mob Rule on Twitter, but they'd be mad at Adam for that for a long
only
time.
Adam.
It's my delivery, man. That's the only thing I can figure. Maybe I'm just a jerk when I talk. I felt like it was more funny, but maybe I've just transitioned from funny to a-hole. Maybe that's where we're at here. I don't know.
There is a tone to your voice, Adam, that it makes it sound as if there is no other right answer other than yours. And
I'm sorry that I'm certain and right. If everybody else has a problem with that, I don't know what to tell you. Just get on board. It's going to be better for your deal. Yeah.
There you go. See? I feel like
who would be offended by that?
I have no idea. It's one of the we've been friends for so long. I don't see how anybody could disagree with that.
Right. Yeah. So we all agree Geno. So we take Geno off the board.
Yeah, he's the keystone of keystones. Free square, Geno off the board.
Okay.
Who wants to kick things off? I want to hear from Adam first because Adam's answer is correct. I feel like we should start with you.
All right.
Well, Geno off the board, and this may be also classified as lame, according to Clinton, but I think it's Bobby Wagner this year. Yeah. If he can come back and put together yet another all-pro season like he did last year for the Rams and tie together the front half of the defense and the back half of the defense, be that leader, be the energy, be all of that stuff that Pete Carroll needs out of his middle linebacker, calling the shots from back there and getting all the run fit set and things like that, that could take our defense from absolutely abysmal to, hey, this is actually okay. I can watch this week to week. And it's all because of Bobby Wagner's greatness. And on top of all of that, don't we want to see him be better this year, back in the right number and the right uniform as a Seahawk than he did wherever the hell he was last year, the team that shall not be talked about?
Just in seeing his introductory press conference, and I call it introductory just because now he's back and he was behind the podium and he's talking about getting back into wearing 54 and wearing the right colors. Everything felt better to me. And Bobby Wagner makes a ton of sense as a keystone player on the defense.
Yeah, so for me, Adam, not lame, not a lame answer whatsoever. I have a different answer, which is cool. Which, by the way, for the folks out there, we didn't talk about what our answers were going to be. We just say we're going to spring them on each other, and we'll react if we happen to pick the same one. It's fine. But I think Wagner's fascinating. It's so much of the just the run scheme and in him. The thing that I liked about the signing of Wagner the most, which I had challenges with. I was like, oh boy, if he's our savior, we might have some challenges from a speed perspective. What I liked about the most is his consistency. And I don't care how old he is. He knows how to read plays. He knows where to be. So if we're doing some of the things up front the right way, Wagner's going to be where he's got to be in the run fits to make freaking tackles and not let people go off like Jacobs last year. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers couldn't run the ball at all. We go to Germany and it's like sweetness back there. It's 85 Bears just running over. It's like, what is this? So I like that answer. I think he can clean all that up. And I think Gino was nice enough to say he called it like when he had I think he called it an ugly number. He's like, good to see him out of that ugly number there too, which is kind of neat. So
ugly number, ugly colors. He's going to be wearing the green
ugly
dot.
city.
He made it sound like it was an idiotic question whether or not he was going to have the green dot on his helmet.
Well, duh. Yeah, that was an idiotic question. But, you have to ask the dumb ones too.
The clarifying questions like, is Geno Smith a Keystone player?
Even talk about Geno Smith.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, you have to do that. And then you talk, Clinton, about him being in the right spot for the run fits, but him being able to get everybody else in the right spots for the run fits, because he easily knows where he needs to be. He doesn't need more than a half a second. So he's got all that extra time to get all these young players that we're going to be relying on up front and throughout the defense in the right spots on the same page. And the coaches can only hold people so accountable in a lot of ways. You have Bobby Wagner in the locker room and you goof up and you're, a rookie Witherspoon and you goof up and Wags gets in your face and lets you know. I think you take that seriously.
Yeah, I totally agree. He has at this part of his career too, absolutely player coach style, right? On the field and like you said, in the locker room. Yeah, there's very few people in this world I'd rather be scolded by, like Bobby's, I think rather not be scolded by, I should say, right? Is Bobby with he's an intimidating dude. So I love that answer. So Brandan, did you want to go second? Do you want to go third this particular round?
I will allow you to go first.
Look at you. Go first by going second. Got it. All right. So my choice, let's see if it shows up or it gets blocked on camera here from the fuzz. But my choice is, there it is.
Oh,
Draymond Jones.
That's a killer graphic you just put up there.
Hey, look at that. Look at this, right? Just put it right in there.
That's production value, baby.
That's really something, right? We're really stepping up the game in 23. And for me, so we talked after the draft, and my big philosophy was that, hey, everything that I could see the Seahawks doing was centered around getting decidedly better on third down. Like I think across the board, whether or not they're going to come out and say it, or they just knew that they were 20th in the league in third down conversions on offense, and we struggled getting off the field on third downs on defense. And Draymond Jones comes in, but then I look at some of the picks we made around him. Like, okay, we pick Witherspoon. All right, well, we should be covering better and more, just longer, right? If just between him and Tariq, who apparently just had a surgery, right? That news came out today, is out 4 to 6 weeks. But we should be covering more effectively with Witherspoon. But then the Derek Hall pick Like, what does Derek Hall do really, really well? He bull rushes. Like, he's just power, right? He can cave in tackles and give quarterbacks limited choices to escape to the outside. So these things coalesce to me with like a little bit more coverage, a little longer. Derek Hall, Nwosu doing their things on the edges. And if we just get the middle cleaned up on those second and long and third down passing situations, it's Draymond Jones all day. Like he should literally be in the double digit sack territory, at least 8, 9, pushing to 10 if that all comes together. So for me, it's Draymond Jones, not because of the big signing, 17 million a year is a spicy meatball. I just think the impact on third down is going to be so big if it all hits, and he'll be our keystone.
Yeah, if he has 8 or 9 sacks on the interior of the defense, then I think he will be looked at as a keystone player, because then you're going to be talking about, if Uchenna Nwosu and one of the edge guys can be up there around 9 or 10 sacks too, then you have a group that is consistently getting pressure, and they're helped out likely by the secondary.
Yeah.
And so if that is all working together in concert, then a big part of it could be that free agent off signing in Jones.
Yeah, Draymond Jones, obviously the biggest signing of the offseason, and known as a pass rusher more so than a run stuffer. And pass rush up the middle is a massive thing in the NFL. Just like you were saying, Clinton, it does keep the quarterbacks from stepping up into the pocket, allowing the edge guys to bend the edge. And even if they get pushed outside a little bit more, now the quarterback's drifting back into them, and it makes their production go up a lot higher. As far as the number of sacks out of Draymond, double digits is steep for the interior. That's a lot of sacks. I don't really care what the sack number is so much. I just want to see disruption and just pressure from the middle. And if that results in the edge players then feasting, if he ends up with 5 sacks, great. And that would be a big deal on third down if you can keep them in third and longer situations rather than being in third and short all the time as we were last year.
I think it's a good point. So it may like manifest itself or like might come out on the surface as Nwosu to 11.5, right? That actually might be what happens with a little bit better coverage. And then we get pressure in the middle. They try to escape and then nope, you're not going anywhere. Right. And then Nwosu gets that because he was so close last year, 3-4, that Chargers game. He had Herbert like 3 times, like almost in the grasp. Right. So it might show out that way on the stats, but all of that's good news, right? So and that's why it's a keystone for me, which I'm fired up about. So, all right, Brandan, you punted and then you punted. So what do you got? What do you got on this third down?
He just deferred till the second half. He didn't punt. Okay,
I did defer into the second half. Yeah. It's definitely not a punt. And we all know that deferring to the second half is the correct choice. So
it's a terrible choice.
It's a perfect choice.
And one of the reasons why I deferred, you guys leaning so heavy on defense, I'm surprised one of you didn't say Quandre Diggs for one, because that seems like a pretty obvious choice. But with neither of you going on the offensive side, even though Geno Smith off the board, I got to go with my guy, Kenneth Walker at running back, because when I think of keystone players, I know that DK Metcalf's going to get his. I know that Tyler Lockett's going to get his. Shoot, the last couple of years, no matter who the quarterback was, they're getting 1,000 yards each. And so to me, that tells me it's just a function of the offense more so and their health and their awesomeness than it is, really, I just don't see that as being a keystone as just as much as a really effective part of the offense. Whereas with Kenneth Walker, he has the ability to be very special this season. And if we're talking about 1,300 yards from Walker out of the running back spot, that opens up Geno Smith to be more effective on third down, to if you're in those third and short type situations, because you're getting good push from the offensive line, you're getting good yards from Kenneth Walker, then, again, on third down, you have the ability to run. You have the ability to throw to your new rookie, Jackson Smith and Jigba. You got DK, you got Tyler. If Kenneth Walker is being the guy in the second year, because now he's starting off as the guy, whereas last year it was Penny, and he had to deal with the injury early on in the season. If we're talking about healthy Ken Walker, then I think that he's got to be the keystone that really makes the offense just work better than we've seen it.
It would be massive. It'd be absolutely massive. That's how you get the best out of Geno and DK and Tyler this year, is to be able to run the ball effectively. And you do that and you start bringing dudes into the box and they have to have heavier personnel out there. Okay, fine. Then you throw JSN out there and you start tearing them up that way too. So Walker, if he could be, I don't care what the total yards on the season is. What I don't want is a game of 20, 25 yards and then a game of 180 yards. I'd love to see
consistent 100 yards every single week.
80 to 110 yards a week.
So instead of 1,300 yards, like I said,
16,
you want
17.
1,800 yards on the season.
As long as it's consistent.
2,100 yards.
A 4,000-yard runner. That's what I'm
week.
looking for out of Walker this year. But you understand the concept. If he can consistently week in and week out be a guy who's moving the chains, keeping you ahead of schedule, taking a little pressure off of Geno, then that means that Geno's going to be better. And it also means that the interior offensive line, whether it's Brown or Olu or Bradford or beefy boy Phil Haynes, whoever they have, whatever combination up there with Dame Lou, they figured it out and it's working. So he's almost a canary in the coal mine that way.
Yeah.
And I figured you guys would get on me if I picked the entire offensive line as a keystone. So it made more sense to me to go with Walker.
Well, I like
that seems like a dirty pool play you would make. Yeah.
I do wonder, Brandan, you threw out, 1,300 yards, and I know Adam doesn't care about stats for this episode, which is fine. With that,
no,
though,
just certain ones, like the overall totals in some ways,
it's all good. But the number 1,300 is like, it's definitely impressive. What do you what's Charbonnet's role then? Or where would you put Charbonnet's totals, right? And is that, if you have a number in your head, if K9's getting to 1,300, what's your landing zone for Charbonnet that you think, Brandan?
400 probably.
That's it, huh? Wow.
Yeah, and maybe 200 yards catching. Yeah,
okay,
that's fine.
How about you, Adam? Do you think
mixing it up?
Yeah, do you think more or less than that? Like, because that's a fairly small role, right? If you're assuming health, which we have to for this exercise, even though they're running backs, 17 games, 400 yards. Ooh, that's not a lot, right? That's only about a little less than
DJ
30.
Dallas and Kenny McIntosh. You got to throw in there too, buddy.
Yeah, no, I know. It's a pretty good. Well, you do a little bit, right? It's a pretty good. It's a great running back room, but that's not a lot per game, right? That's under 30 yards per game from Charbonnet.
Don't draft Charbonnet is what I'm saying in your fantasy league.
Gotcha. But Adam, do you think less or more for Charbonnet? Like, how do you see it?
You initially asked the question, and the first number that popped into my head was 600. Yeah. And then Brandan broke it down 400 and 200 as far as receiving yards. And that makes a ton of sense. Him being in there maybe on some of those more third down and longer situations and that sort of thing with his pass catching ability, and all the receivers running everybody downfield and leaving the flats and stuff open, and we can gash people that way like everybody's gashed us for the last 3, 4, 5 years. That would be a breath of fresh air, no doubt about it. So, man, if he had, I don't know, anywhere between 600 and 800 combined yards from scrimmage, that would be a coup.
Yeah, that'd be that. I think that to me is a little more jacked up than what Brandan said. And that's kind of where I see it too. I do think he's going to get a lot of the short yardage work, and from a fantasy perspective, because that matters, he might end up being a bit of a vulture, which is fine. It's just, as long as we're punching in the end zone and we get better within the 5-yard line, that would be amazing, because we weren't great at that last year. We suffered a little bit because of that too. So just ending more drives in 6. Demoralizing, right? Absolutely demoralizing. So looking forward to that. All right. So that's those are our 3 so far. So pretty good start. So Adam, who'd you have again? Such a good start. I forgot.
I had the Wags, man.
Wags, right? So you had Wags,
future
right?
Hall of Famer, all-time great Seahawk, Bobby freaking Wagner, number 54. You heard of him, yeah?
You had Wags, you had K9, and I had Draymond Jones. So those are more the obvious players / stars. So how about some dark horses? What do we think if things go, and then, give the theory, like, how could this person be that person? So Brandan, not letting you off the hot seat this time.
Yeah.
You gotta go first. We'll go Serpentine. Who's your dark horse potential keystone?
I feel like as a dark horse, Jamal Adams fits in very well to this role, because I think at this point, so many 12s are kind of counting him out, and almost to the point of writing him off as not having high expectations. And I can see why that would be, because the last couple of years, I mean, after the trade, you have high expectations because this is a player that you traded multiple first rounders for, multiple draft picks. You want to see a large amount of production, and it just hasn't been there. And so with him kind of being counted out in that way, I think he could end up having a really big impact on the defense if we see the healthy Jamal Adams that I think the team thought that they were trading for just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, interesting with that, because I hadn't even thought of Jamal, which is almost derelict on duty. It's almost like forgetting somebody picked Bobby. It was bad for me to not even think of Jamal in that way. And it's probably because I'm a little like the fan you're describing, Brandan. I'm
right.
It's not that I'm down on him or I'm doubting him or anything like that. I'm looking at Adams and more like, well, if he can beat Adams, what a bonus. What a bonus.
Yeah,
like,
it's a bonus.
I can't find myself being like, God, we need that guy, and we better have him back healthy and at full strength. Otherwise we're screwed, which may be the case, but relying on him at this point, week in, week out, I mean, I feel bad for the dude. His body just freaking betrayed him. It's ridiculous. It has nothing to do with his heart and how hard he plays and how smart he is and how hard he works and all that stuff. Like, it just, his body's just like, nope, just for the last 2 years. And it's just a shame.
Yeah. And when we talk about, 6, 7, 8, 9 sack guys.
Yeah. Right.
That's a guy who just a couple of years ago, and not even an entire season, had double-digit sacks, right?
True.
Complete disruptor and a unique piece. I think I'm in the Adam camp of I didn't think of him in that vein. I thought of him as like just pure bonus because he's coming off of such that's a brutal injury, right? He tore his freaking thigh muscle off his kneecap, like, ouch, right? So that's not great. I hope he comes back and can play with the tenacity that he's always played with, because I'd hate to see him come back and not trust it and not be him, because his speed, the way he breaks the ball, like we saw 2 years ago, some great tackles for loss going all the way across the formation and making tackles on like jet sweeps and stuff like that, or sweeps. Yeah, he just has to play with that kind of motor. So I hope he gets back to a place of trust and comfort that he could really go for it, even though he might get injured again. Like, I just feel like that's the only way he can play the game. And I hope he gets back to that so we could see it. What I also love about your answer, Brandan, since we're serpentining, so I'm back in the middle here, is that dude is exactly why I picked my guy. So my guy is Jarek Reed, the 6th round pick for me. And the biggest thing was I wrote Adams back ? It's like, I don't know what's going to happen there. And yep, we got Julian Love, and yep, we got Quandre, and then we've got a smattering of other players out there. And with that, you got a young dude, if we're going to be in nickel a lot or in dime a lot, or he's a converted cornerback. He can potentially play slot. Are we sure they're happy about Kobe Bryant's slot play? Adam, I know you're not sure about that. I know you're very not sure about that. And why didn't Trey Brown get back on the field last year? Like, that to me is still like the biggest mystery. It's almost like Nas Jones territory. Guy's really good. All right. In this case, Trey Brown gets hurt and then he's gone. It's like, did not make his way back, but Kobe wasn't phenomenal in the slot last year. So what gives? So I'm thinking if things break a certain way and he stands out in camp, we have a history of plucking guys in the fifth round and later in the DBs area that end up being really damn good and impact early. And I just wonder if Jarek Reed could be that dude.
So is it really the biggest mystery why Trey Brown didn't step on the field, or is the biggest mystery the fact that they just re-signed Artie Burns? That feels like a bigger mystery to me.
That's
like
true.
he's back. And then I see Tariq had knee surgery, and then they bring back Artie, and now I'm having like palpitations. Like what does this mean? And, as far as Jarek Reed, I love the player in terms of his attitude and just the fire that he brings to the team and all that. As far as being a keystone player defensively, I think he's a long ways from seeing the field. Long ways from seeing the field between Love and Trey Brown and Kobe Bryant and, now Artie Burns back and Mike Jackson and, all those guys. Like, depending on the injury, I just don't see Jarek Reed being the guy that gets thrust into action. Now, a keystone player in a third of the game, yeah, he could be a hell of a gunner, man, and start limiting some of these kick returns and things like that, keeping all of these massive Dixon punts pinned down back underneath the 10 and making it a long field for our crappy defense to stop them on. Like that could be helpful. I could see him be a keystone there, but defensively, I don't know. I don't think the opportunity is going to be
tough to be a keystone when you have, single digit snaps on defense from game to game.
Dark horse.
If that.
Dark horse, right?
A dark horse keystone.
A true stretchy Gumby dark horse keystone. That's correct.
I like though that you shifted it to special teams, Adam, because we hadn't had anybody on special teams yet.
That's right. That all changes now because the dark horse is Michael Dixon. No, it's not true.
Jason Myers would make a good dark horse. I mean, this is his down year. We need a good year in his down year.
Good year and a lot of close games. Jason Myers could be a huge difference maker. And, if he has another one of those down years, we could be kicking ourselves at the end of the year with that one. But for me, my dark horse, boys, it's Boye Mafe. And I'm thinking of it in these terms.
Spicy.
I know Draymond Jones is going to be bringing the heat from the inside. I know what we got in Nwosu. He was our best pass rusher by far last year. Darrell Taylor, am I ready to be like, ooh, he's going to finally make the leap? I don't know. It's getting a little late in the game, and I'm starting to have de-escourage wonderings about him, right? So for me, Boye Mafe was the next guy up who set the edge well. He did that last year as a rookie and played physical. They love his attitude, all that. He's got the size, all the different tools that you need. Now he's coming into year 2. And for pass rushers, that can easily be the year where the light just goes bink and clicks on. And if Draymond is, raising hell, if Nwosu's raising hell back in the backfield and pushing people into Mafe, he could have a massive year. And if he takes just a bit of a jump in his pass rush, holy smokes, now we look pretty darn formidable in terms of pass defense.
And the pressure is on the defense this upcoming season with so many keystone and dark horse keystone players on that side of the ball. Maybe it's partially wishful thinking too on our part.
Well, I think a little bit, right? That's okay. I think there's good logic there that Adam laid out for why. The part I like best, Adam, about the Boye piece, the pick, is you looked at something he did well that was kind of unexpected. He was like, oh, he's going to be a pass rusher. And he wasn't like known to be a good edge setter. But he was really good at that. He was far better at that than Taylor, far better. And then frankly, better at it most times than Irvin even, which was a little frustrating to see Mafe not get as much time on the field as I think he actually deserved down the stretch. That probably won't be the case this year. Or if he is removed, it won't be for an old veteran. It'll be for a brand new dude who's showing that for whatever reason he's that much better, which is also a cool scenario.
Yeah, whether or not Derek Hall, if that draft pick is enough to then go ahead and push Boye into being, to taking it to the next level this season, I could see that happening for sure.
Yeah, the pressure's there. And then also too, as a rook, you're probably not going to play quite as much as a guy who's been in the league for a full year, has a full off season to train, knows what they're trying to do, even though as fans, we don't seem to know what they're going to be doing on the defensive line, 3-4, 4-3, over, under, who knows? Like it's all over the place
too. We haven't seen a depth chart or anything, but I get more of the sense that Derek Hall was brought in to be that Uchenna Nwosu learn from him type piece.
Okay.
It's just my sense, like a gut feeling. I have no idea.
But I do like the composition, right? The cocktail on the defensive ends that we do have now. It's young, it's pretty violent and vicious, and they're pretty fast, right? So and to your point, Adam, some of these dudes can set the edge really, really well. Nwosu can, Mafe can, Hall seems like he can. Seems like that was something he was good at. We'll see. we shall see with the rest of this, which is really interesting. So I think what we'll do is we'll put our top picks and our dark horses into the YouTube comments, and then let people either, if they want to comment them, vote. I don't care if people vote. Really, I'm more interested in hearing, like, what does the flock think? Like, who would they choose? Is this one of their choices? Is this two of their choices? Or do they have players like, no, for me, it's this person. And why the heck is it that person? So Brandan, what should our folks be doing, man? The listeners out there, or maybe even the noobs who are here for the first time.
Yeah, well, they can go into the comments and make those comments, or they can go to getintheflock.com. They can become a member, sign up, and then they have the access to just direct message us through the getintheflock.com website on Patreon, and get to us that way. And then, yeah, that way for sure your message is getting read and just not washed away in the YouTube comments. Because most 100%. Of those are just going to be telling Adam that he's wrong.
Yeah, and look, I have a hard time, taking those too seriously because 6 months they're all going to be wrong themselves, so that's fine. I mean, it's tough break for them, but it's a burden I bear, and that's okay. But no, go get in the flock, man. Become a patron. There's all sorts of cool stuff. Like, you get in the Pick'em League that we do every year. We give out prizes. Eventually, we get to it.
I started. I'm through the top 3.
Yep, and great prizes. We got the Ring of Honor, which is just one of the most special group of 12s that you'll ever get to talk to. We got the cool Discord going on game day. That is fire. And I don't use that term because it annoys me, but in this case, it's 100% true. There's so many benefits to getting in the flock. And like Brandan said, it's a lot easier to get in touch with one of us directly, which is always fun. We love interacting with you guys, even when you're telling me I'm wrong, which is fine. And Clinton, what else should they be doing? There's actions on YouTube people should be taking.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, I think people know the actions at this point, but they bear repeating, right? So you got to subscribe, you got to click the bell, hit the likes, and then comment. All those things help drive this out there. And it's, this is not some pity play from our audience. This is just like, if you dig this, those are things you could do that help us do more of this. So Adam, you said it for years, value for value, right?
Value for value, baby. Like, if this, brings a little value to your life, enough to hit a little like ski, then go for it. If it brings a ton of value to your life and you want to throw us a couple bones, we'll take it. It's great. So we appreciate you guys' support a ton, though. Channel's taken off. The audio side's been going gangbusters. This has been great, and can't thank you flockers enough. You guys are amazing.
And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.